What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats of every one of the weapons in Modern Warfare. And in today's episode, we're going to be moving on to the next marksman rifle, which is the Mk2 Carbine. Now first up, as always, let's have a look at the damage profile. And it's quite interesting with this gun. This gun deals a base damage of 90 up close and 70 at range. However, as I'm sure most of you are aware, there is an upper torso multiplier. This is 1.2, which takes the damage profile within the upper torso to a 108 up close and 84 at a distance. This means this gun is all about precision. You want to be aiming for that upper torso multiplier in those closer range situations so you can get the one-shot kill. As for headshots, we get a headshot multiplier of 1.6, taking our headshot damage profile to a 145, 113, and this means at any range you're able to get a one-shot headshot. Moving on to our rate of fire, this is very slow, but when you consider the one-shot kill potential of this gun, it's really not that bad at 108 rounds per minute, and this means our theoretical minimum time to kill is obviously 0 seconds if you hit that upper torso multiplier and get the one-shot kill. However, if you miss that upper torso multiplier and you require a second shot to finish off the enemy, it's going to take you a minimum of 556 milliseconds to get that second shot off. This is a very long time in Call of Duty terms, and most people will be killing you within this amount of time. So this gun is a lot more forgiving than the Kar 98, but it's still not a super forgiving gun if you are missing shots consistently. As for our ranges, this is something that I was very surprised to find in my testing. The drop-off point where you can no longer get a one-shot kill to the upper torso is roughly 20 meters. It's not a very good range at all. This means this gun is absolutely designed for close quarters combat. It's not designed to be used as a sniper rifle. You can use it kind of as a sniper rifle, but you have to be hitting those headshots if you want to get a one-shot kill at longer ranges. Now, when it comes to suppressors, the lightweight suppressor will reduce your range by 25%, so I would say 100% you want to stay away from this because you want to get as much out of that one-shot kill range as possible, whereas the monolithic suppressor will actually increase your range by about 7.5%, which is pretty minimal. As for hardcore, if it wasn't obvious enough, the Mk2 Carbine is always a one-shot kill in hardcore modes. This brings us into hipfire, and it's pretty straightforward. The Mk2 Carbine has the same hipfire spread as all of the other marksman rifles. It's not really a great hipfire spread, so you typically don't want to hipfire unless you're basically touching the enemy player. As for idle sway, as you can see here, there is definitely some noticeable idle sway with this gun, and idle sway is very important with this as well, because there will be situations where you need to be really precise with this gun if you want to pick off a headshot, for instance, at longer ranges. So it might be in your best interest with this to use attachments that help you with aiming stability. Taking a look at recoil, as you can see, this gun pretty much perfectly recenters after every single shot you take, and therefore you don't have to worry about recoil at all. I would worry more about aiming steadiness than I would with recoil. As for aim down sight time, this is a very important stat with this gun, and one of the big strengths of this gun as well. We get a very solid aim down sight time for a one-shot kill weapon at just 267 milliseconds. This is faster than a bunch of the assault rifles in this game, and like I said, it's definitely one of the big strong points. We see a similar story with sprint out time. I was very surprised to see just how fast the sprint out times are on this gun. This is more in the range of an SMG sprint out time than anything, at 184 milliseconds for our standard sprint out time, and 284 milliseconds for our tactical or super sprint out time. So this really clearly reinforces the role of this gun as an aggressive, close quarters, one-shot kill precision weapon. As for our capacity, this is just 6 rounds with 12 in reserve, which is one of the downsides of this gun. It doesn't have a ton of ammo. And also, our reload time isn't great. So the way the reload works on this gun is when you first try to reload a round, there is a 200 millisecond delay, and then for every round after that 200 milliseconds, it's going to take you 0.53 seconds per round to reload it. So if you're reloading all 6 rounds, it's going to take you 3.4 seconds. Now this is pretty slow if you're trying to reload all 6 rounds, but if you just want to quickly pop another round back in the tube, it really doesn't take that long at all. Now, if you want to speed this up, you could use sleight of hand, and with this, you still have that same 200 millisecond delay when you first start reloading a round, and then every round after that is now going to take 0.45 seconds rather than 0.53, so it is a little bit faster. Now, getting into movement speed, we get a very respectable movement speed at 95% with this gun, so you're very mobile, and our aim down sight stray speed isn't really all that amazing, but it's also not terrible at 53%. So that covers it for all of the important base stats with the Mark II. However, we do have a few unique attachments for this gun to go over, and first up, we'll have a look at the barrel attachments. Now with this, we have 3 different barrel attachments, and they all actually have the same upsides and downsides, just to varying degrees. Now the first one you unlock is the 18-inch barrel, and with this one, this increases your damage range by 20%, which is nice. You definitely want to boost that one-shot kill potential to the upper torso as much as possible. And on top of that, we get improved bullet velocity, which is going to make it a lot easier to hit moving targets at longer ranges, and also an improvement to our recoil control, which, I mean, if we just look at the side-by-side right here, it really doesn't matter with this gun. Like I said, recoil is not an important stat for this gun. Now, these upsides do come at the cost of, first off, your aim down sight time. You will aim down sight 1 frame slower with this particular barrel, so your new aim down sight time is 284 milliseconds. And on top of that, our movement speed is slowed down by just 1%. Now moving on to the second barrel, this is the 20-inch barrel, and with this, our damage range is increased by 30% rather than 20, so it's a little bit better in that area. We also still get that same improvement to our bullet velocity, and once again, when we have a look at the recoil control comparison, it doesn't matter, it's kind of useless, but I still wanted to show you guys anyways what it looked like. And once again, same downsides here, but to a larger degree. So our aim down sight time is now going to be 2 frames slower at 60 FPS. So our new aim down sight time is 300 milliseconds. And also our movement speed is reduced by 2% rather than 1. And finally for barrels, we have the 24-inch barrels. And again, same trend here. Our damage range gets a 40% increase, which is awesome. We also get that boost to bullet velocity. Recoil control, once again, irrelevant with this. And this just leaves us with those cons. Our aim down sight time is slowed down by 3 frames at 60 FPS, so 317 milliseconds is the new aim down sight time, which is starting to become fairly slow, but of course you could offset this with other attachments. And our movement speed is reduced by 3% rather than 2. So when it comes to these barrels, you definitely see that same trend for all of them, and basically you just pick your poison on this. I tend to lean towards the longer barrels, and then I just choose other attachments that offset the reduction to our aim down sight speed, but you really can't go wrong with any of these barrels. Now with this gun, there's one other attachment that is unique to this gun that you don't see on any of the other guns in the game, and this is the cartridge sleeve. This is in the stock section, and with this, what happens is it gives you 6 extra total starting rounds. It's not like an extended tube attachment though, so it's not like those are actually in your gun. You just get 6 added to your total starting ammo. And this does improve your aiming stability, which is a nice bonus with the Mark II. The cons of this, though, are a reduction to your aim walking movement speed, and based on my tests, this is about 7.5% slower. So overall, not a bad attachment by any means. So that covers it for all of the important stats with the Mark II Carbine. Now let's get into some great attachment combinations and example class setups. And first up, this is probably my go-to attachment class setup with the Mark II at this point. And with this, we're using the 24-inch barrel to get the most damage range possible so we can really stretch out that one-shot kill potential to the upper torso. And to offset the reduction to our aim down sight speed, we are using the tack laser, which also helps us with our aiming stability, which is great. For an optic, we've got the GI Mini Reflex. That's just my favorite reflex sight to use on any gun, really. And I do highly encourage you to use some form of an optic with this, just so you get that little added precision. And with that, we've also got the cartridge sleeve, which just helps us get a little bit more ammo, because with a gun like this, you can typically get going on a streak if you're on point with your shots. And on top of that, we also get a little bit more aiming stability, which is great. So this thing doesn't really move much at all while aiming down sight. And finally, to top it off with this gun, we're using the Focus Weapon perk, which is only available on marksman rifles and sniper rifles, and I highly encourage you to use it for one-shot kill weapons. I don't use it as much on the EBR, but for the Mark II, you can't really afford to be flinched over the head of your target as you're trying to line up your one and only shot to get that kill. So this is why I always use Focus when I'm using the Mark II. Now taking that one into an example class setup, with this we've got the Desert Eagle as our secondary, EOD for our first perk, Hardline for our second perk, and Shrapnel for our third perk, combined with the Thermite. This one is designed more for ground war mode, so we can take those tanks out without any issues. And finally, we'll wrap that class up with a Stim Shot in our tactical slot. This particular setup is a great sort of all-around versatile Mark II setup. It's not really designed for any one specific role, you just kind of use it as you need it. As for the next attachment combination, this time we're getting more into stealth. And with this, we've got the monolithic suppressor combined with the 18-inch barrel. And the reason I use the 18-inch barrel instead of like the 24-inch is the monolithic suppressor also reduces our aim down sight speed a little bit. And therefore, if you were to stack that with a 24-inch barrel, you would be aiming down sight just too slow. Now, in order to offset that reduction to our aim down sight speed with those two attachments, we are using the FSS Mk2 Sport Comb for the stock section, and this is the one that helps with our aim down sight time. So it actually offsets those other two attachments quite well. And once again, we do have that GI mini reflex just because that's what I prefer with this. And of course, we've got that focus weapon perk. Taking this one into an example class setup, we've got that Desert Eagle once again with a suppressor as well. Perk 1 is EOD, perk 2 obviously is going to be Ghost because we're trying to stay off the radar with this, and our third perk is Tune Up so we can earn that Dead Silence field upgrade as fast as possible. As for our equipment, for our lethal we've got a C4, and for our tactical, once again we've got that Stim Shot. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's gun guide on the Mk2 Carbine. As for my personal thoughts on this gun, I think it's a ton of fun, but it's not necessarily like an upper tier weapon, just due to the fact that it's not very forgiving. If you happen to miss a shot against any competent player that is using one of these standard like assault rifles, for instance, you typically just don't stand a chance. Having said that, you can really go on some tears with this, and it is just so satisfying to get multiple kills in a row with a really snappy sort of one-shot kill weapon. So I think this gun is in a really good place in its current state. But of course, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think about the Mk2? Do you think it is balanced as it is? Or do you maybe think it's a bit overpowered or underpowered? Just let me know those thoughts in the comment section down below. If you guys have missed any of the previous episodes of Gun Guides, I will of course leave a link to the playlist in the description. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.